I'm trying to unhandcuff him and he keeps turning so I can't take the handcuffs off of him. And I stand up and he jumps up and he grabs hold of me and he won't move away from me. Do you know why? He's afraid I'm going to shoot him. When the State Department sat there and said, we are inviting you into the Muslim world, I knew that was the Lord going, this is your calling. This is your identity's calling. And so I got charged with insulting the Quran, which is 10 years in prison. And so I got arrested for that and had to go to trial for it. And when I notified the embassy guys, hey, I just got arrested, I'm going on trial. It's 10 years in prison and I'm not allowed to testify because I'm not a Muslim and nobody here is going to help me. The U.S. was like, good luck. Tell me in your life, what are you most afraid of in your life right now? Fear is the beautiful God-given emotion that points to things that you believe about yourself, God, and the world. It's not true. That's what fear does. Fear points to things that you're going to do or believe that hurt you. That's the value of it. He said, but I'm going to tell you something. I know you're here because Jesus wants you to be here and wants you to talk to Muslims about Jesus. He said, but you better find another way to say it. Because every time you open your mouth, you offend us and you're going to get killed here saying it the way you say it. Find another way to say it.
For anyone listening, thinking, I want a relationship like that, I want to be able to hear from God, what is your best advice? Where can they start?
I imagine when you were getting hired by the State Department, I imagine they had a very thorough vetting process with you.
Why are they calling me at home? Why won't he tell me who I'm meeting with? I thought I was in some kind of trouble. I sat down and he had a folder in front of him and he didn't introduce himself or anything. He goes, I want to know how you do this. He's tapping the folder. I want to know how you do this. And I'm like, do what? And he said, whatever you're doing in this, and he had a folder of all my casework for 5 years. I was in my 5th year in the police department. He had all 5 years of cases I'd worked. And he said, I want to know how you do this. Whatever you're doing in here, nobody taught you in a police academy. I want to know where you learned it. And I want to know if you can articulate what you're doing. I was 27 years old, almost 28. And I said, well, like what, for example? And so he opens it up and he just starts flipping through these different cases over 5 years. And he says, this one, start with this one. And I said, okay. And I said, in that one, there was a drug problem in a subsidized housing project. We could, you can arrest all day. We're not going to stop it. So I was just praying and asking God, is there another way to think about how to do this? Because we had done everything I was trained to do. I ran out of stuff. And I had an idea basically from the scriptures. You have an idea and you think, oh, that's like in the Bible too. And so it's like this, and then you confirm it kind of in the word, like you would in training or something. And so I told the State Department official, I said, so I went to the drug dealer gang leader guy and I invited him to my house for dinner.
That checks out.
and the gang guy said, I have never had a police officer invite me to their house for dinner. And I said, I've never invited the head of a drug gang to my house for dinner, so we'll have a great time together. And so he agreed. And I'm telling this to the State Department guy who's very dubious about all of it. And I said, and the guy came to our house and I walked him through what his real identity is versus the false one that he's working out. But there's a true one there and what it could look like and what it would be, if he understood the one that gave him identity in the first place, God, Christ, and it transformed his life. And then he came back into the gang and he stopped the drugs. He ended it. He brought it, which is the Samaritan woman story. It's the Zacchaeus story. It's all the stories in the Bible. Jesus talks to one person and leaves. And that person is the one that initiates the movement. And so I told him that, and he goes, so you ask God a question and you have an idea and then you act it out. And I said, yep, that's basically it. And he said, yeah, I don't like that. He said, but it seems to work. And so then he had this progression in his mind, like that was a pretty minor case. Then he started going into the deeper, more complicated cases where I was really like risking a lot, my career and jail time and all of that. And he wanted to, until he got to this one case in particular that he really wanted to get to, which was, it was something I had just done that year. And he said, why did you de-arrest this guy? And so what I had done, I had watched a guy commit 2 felonies, including assaulting a police officer. So I was the witness to the events and arrested the guy and then taking him to the jail to process him. This is the end of my police career, going into leveling up with Jesus, because Jesus never lets you stay at one level. He's always like, let's go up another level, unless you don't want to. And so I can tell you all the details of the case. It's pretty beautiful and dramatic what happened, but I was driving the guy basically to jail, and he was talking to me from the back seat and inside my spirit. And by this time in my career, I never doubted what I heard. I knew I was done debating with God. Like, is that you? Is that me? All that stuff. Because you just train and discipline. Like, I know the voice. I know it. It's not mine. It's different than mine. And I know it. I recognize it. And whatever the Lord says it produces life and redemption. It's what it does, even in the worst situations. And this voice in my head or in my heart, however we describe it, was like, stop the car and let this guy, de-arrest this guy and let him go. And I was like, wow, I know that's you, Lord, because where is this idea? It's not coming from the enemy. Is your position, is your livelihood more important? Are you more important than the guy in the back seat because you're white and you grew up in this neighborhood and you know Jesus and he did it and all that? Are you more valuable than him? And he broke the law and you didn't break the law, and justice has to be served and you're the arm of justice. Like, really? Or is his life important? And so I got out and I walk around and I open up the door and I go, get out. And he's like, he pushes himself back up further into the car and he goes, why? And I go, just get out. I'm not going to explain. Just get out of my car. And he goes, I don't want to get out. It's super interesting. This is our culture. I'm trying to set a guy free and he's afraid of it.
Wow.
Because he doesn't think I'm going to set him free. So I pull him, I fight him out of the car, which must have looked hilarious to people driving by. I was like, is he fighting him out of his car? I get him out of the car. And I'm trying to unhandcuff him and he keeps turning, so I can't take the handcuffs off of him. And then finally I knock him down on the ground and I de-handcuff him and I stand up and he jumps up and he grabs hold of me and he won't move away from me. Wow. Do you know why? Do you know what he's afraid of? He's afraid I'm going to shoot him. He's afraid I'm going to say he broke free and I'm going to shoot him. That's our culture. Whoa. That's our culture. That's how at war we are. And I'm pushing him away and he runs back and hugs me. Again, this must have just looked absurd to people passing by. And so finally I push him away and I run and jump in my car and I drive away and leave him there on the side of the road. He said, I know you did what you did because you think God told you. And he said, and I appreciate it and I want to pay you back. And I said, you don't have to pay me back. He said, no, I want to pay you back. And he said, at midnight, and he told me the night, like 2 nights down the road, at midnight, there's a black Porsche coming through this intersection. Pull him over. Make him open his trunk. And I'm like,
bribing an officer too.
I'm on suspension. I can't even, he said, get somebody to do it. So I got one of my partners. I went, but my partner had to make the stop. And sure enough, around midnight, we're staking this intersection out and this black Porsche comes through and my partner stops him and gets him to open up the trunk. And it's this huge narcotics bust. I mean, massive narcotics bust. And so we make the arrest, notify the narcotics guys. They're like, how do you know about this car? Like, you have an informant, who is it? And I'm like, yeah, no, this is call-in tip. And so after that, the guy calls me back. He said, I know you stopped the car. And I said, we're even, we're totally even. He goes, oh no. He goes, we're not even. He said, because this isn't about me and you being even. This is about God and me. And he said, I want to repair the community that I've been a part of damaging. And so we worked together for 1 year, me and him.
I want you to just take us back to when you started really seeking the Holy Spirit in your work as a police officer.
I grew up in a pretty strict, my mom's very strict, independent Baptist. And so no movies, no rock music, none of that kind of stuff. So I snuck in a movie when I was 14 just to see why God couldn't go in a movie theater.
Which movie do you remember?
Serpico was the movie. I didn't know it. I had no idea what the movie was. My question was, by 8th grade, I was like, why, if God is omnipresent, why can't he go in a movie theater? Like what's in there that's so I went in, I didn't know what the movie was. I just wanted to see what happens when you go into the heart of evil. And And so I'm sitting there in this theater, and the movie comes on, and it's the movie Serpico. Al Pacino playing real life Frank Serpico, the police detective from New York, who takes on he takes on police corruption, just one guy by himself, and the Knapp Commission, all this forms. And I'm watching this movie in 8th grade, and as soon as it opens up, the opening scene is the police officer. He gets shot in a drug buy that his squad sets up, so he gets shot, and then they leave him. They won't help him because he's battling corruption. So now looking back, I'm 65. Looking back, I just watched the Lord design this whole thing so that I'm in 8th grade in a place I'm not supposed to go, which is key in my life. He was always going to invite me to places you're not supposed to go. See, he's built that identity's present, and he's just like David throwing rocks and protecting sheep and writing terrible poetry when he's a young kid. He's being the king already. He's already being the king. But sometimes parents don't get it, or we don't get it. That what he's doing is important to him later, but you might think it's a waste of time. But so I'm in there, and as soon as the movie opens up, the cinematography, the acting, all of it just hits me like the most beauty I've ever experienced in my life, which is why I love the arts so much. And I think the enemy hates the arts, but it hits me, and I'm watching this one person take on a whole police, even though he doesn't want to. He just doesn't want to be corrupt. He said, you do it. I don't want to do it, but he can't not be involved. And so I'm watching that movie, and I just start to cry. And I cry and I cry and I cry. And I'm like, why am I crying? What is this inside of me that's just exploding out of me? What is this? It's greater than the movie. It's greater than anything I've ever known. I've heard the Bible my whole life up until that point. This is another whole thing. And so at the end of the movie, I knew that somehow God was inviting me into something massive, but I didn't know how to articulate it. And I wasn't sure it was the God I knew because it was in the wrong place. I was in the wrong location for God to meet me. So I was confused on that point, but I knew that whoever this was, it was amazing. And the beauty was so deep. I just cried. And so at the end, because, in Independent Baptist, if you don't go forward, God can't do anything with you unless you go forward. So at the end of the movie, I went forward. Everyone was leaving, and I went forward, and I went to the front of the theater, and I got up on the little stage crying, and I just said to God, I want to be this. It was weird. I didn't want to do this. I want to be this. I want to be this. And the only metaphor in my mind was police. Like there it was. It's a metaphor. Everything's a metaphor. And so right then, 8th grade, I said, I will be this. And I've never, to this day, never changed my mind, not one moment. So it was a police phase, and now this is phase 2, 10 years in Indonesia. And we went over there. And so again, it was like I had to learn again, because in the police department, you go to the academy, then you get out on the street and you realize some of that works, some of it doesn't. When you walk up to a house and a Catholic priest runs out of the house going good luck past you when you're in uniform and jumps in his car and drives away, they don't train you what to do in that situation in a police academy. And I was training a rookie, and he's like, what do we do now? And I'm trust me, whatever is going to happen in that house when you see a priest running out saying good luck, you didn't learn in the police academy, but we will know what to do. Mm-hmm. And so you have those experiences. Then you go over to Indonesia, it's like that plus 5. And so we get over there with our training and realize pretty quickly that our training in that world wasn't effective either. So then we had to go back to God. What do you want us to know? And the way we realized that was I got arrested pretty quick over there.
You have a habit, it seems, of
I'm a hard learner.
Unorthodox behavior leading to some issues.
So I was teaching graduate students thesis writing, and I made a comment about the Quran. There were agitators in my class every day from an Islamic group. And so they were always interrupting me and challenging me in class every day, day after day after day. And one day I just got lazy, and I just said an offhand answer. And that's all they wanted was I violated the Islamic code when I said what I said, which I did. I'm not denying it. They didn't trap me. I just got lazy and wasn't careful what I said. And so I got charged with insulting the Quran, which is 10 years in prison. And so I got arrested for that and had to go to trial for it on this little dinky island 10,000 miles away with no internet, nothing. And when I notified the embassy guys, hey, I'm just got arrested, I'm going on trial. It's 10 years in prison, and I'm not allowed to testify because I'm not a Muslim, and nobody here is going to help me. And the U.S. was like, good luck. You don't have there's no value there to us to get involved. So, you're just by yourself. And again, so we learned how to live with zero money, but could you live with no help? With no advocate? You're by yourself, 3 million Muslims that don't like you, and you've broken their law, and now you're going to an Islamic court. Is God powerful there, even in that scenario? And, honestly, most of us think God's really strong, powerful in certain places, but there's parts of the world he's just not strong, and we can't go there because he can't go there. Same as the movie theater. There's the movie theater all over again for me. So I go to the trial, and sitting in the trial, and they're giving the testimony. He's like, this is what he said. It is what I said. This is the law. It's against the law. Yeah, you can't say that in our country. Okay. If they broke the law in my country, we'd put them in jail. We wouldn't hesitate. So just because I'm a Christian doesn't mean I can break any law I want in another country, which sometimes we think we can. But so I was sitting there and I was like, oh, Lord, I'm sorry. I just got lazy. I wasn't paying attention. Like, what do you want me to, like, I'm going to prison for 10 years, but I protect my Jewish wife on this Muslim island because she can't leave. Our kids can't leave. No one can go anywhere. I was more worried about them surviving than me. And I just said, like, what do you want me to know? Like, help me learn from this, so next time I won't make the same mistake. And they heard the testimony, and they're like, yeah, does anyone want to say anything in his behalf? And I was just waiting for no one to say anything. But this guy comes in who I didn't know. He's a Muslim, because you had to be a Muslim to talk. And so he comes in and he says, I have something to say. And he speaks English. The whole thing's in Indonesian, but he switches to English to impress everybody. And he basically says, I was a PhD student at Arizona State University. I'm a good Muslim. I was going to fail. And the only reason I didn't fail is because 2 Christian guys came and helped me. And they invited me to a Bible study. And I went to a Bible study every Wednesday night for the whole time I was at Arizona State University. Is anyone in this court saying I'm not a good Muslim because I went to a Bible study? He looks around. Everyone's like, no, you're a great Muslim. And he said, so I don't understand if we're higher level Muslim, if Islam is higher level than Christian. And when I went over there, the Christians helped me and could consider me really an enemy. And they helped me, and they sacrificed for my benefit and loved me. And now one of their guys comes over to our greater faith, and he makes a mistake in the class. Are we going to put him in jail? I don't think that's right. I just don't think that's right. But you can do whatever you want. And then he walked out, and the Muslim cleric goes, I think we need to drop these charges right now. And does anyone disagree? And even the dean that charged me, had his head down. I was like, no. And so they looked at me and said, you're free to go. Now, I thought that was an angel, right? So because I knew that he was a Muslim, but I knew he wasn't from that island, never seen him before. And he was so powerful, he could walk in and do that and leave. Yeah. Like, that's a powerful person, wasta, they call it. So I walk out, and I'm like, but he's leaning up against a tree smoking a cigarette. And I was like, I don't know. Can angels smoke? Maybe not. I couldn't go that far theologically. Probably a guy. So I go up to him and I said, like, I know I heard you went to Arizona State, but like, how can you walk in there and do that like that? And he said, did you see who was up in front of the room? And I said, yeah. And he goes, did you see the empty chair? And I said, I did. He said, do you know who sits in that empty chair? And I said, I think normally it's the head of the Islamic Association of Indonesia, all of them, the big, who I knew who that guy was, but he wasn't there. He goes, yeah, do you know why he's not here? And I said, no. And he said, because he was killed yesterday in a car accident. I'm the new one. This is my first day in that position. And he said, I was in Jakarta and I was reading the files and I saw this come up, and I flew here to thank my 2 friends at Arizona State, the 2 believers that saved me and my wife there. And he said, I came here to thank them. He said, but I'm going to tell you something. I know you're here because Jesus wants you to be here and wants you to talk to Muslims about Jesus. He said, but you better find another way to say it. Because every time you open your mouth, you offend us, and you're going to get killed here saying it the way you say it. Find another way to say it. And I knew that's what the Lord wanted me to hear. It's like, learn how to talk to these people with respect and honor. Don't come over here and insult them. I knew that as a cop. I knew never walk into a neighborhood like it's your neighborhood. It's their neighborhood, honor. I knew that. But somehow when we shifted into Muslim culture, I went into this old school brain of like, they're all bad. We're the good guys. They don't know what's going on. We're going to correct them. And it's just insulting to them. And so the Lord taught me 2 things that day, me and Donna and our kids, is there's nowhere you can go where he's not with you. You don't need a million Americans backing you up. on a prayer list. They can pray for you, but you don't need them on an internet list to rescue you. When you don't, no one needs to know where you are. He's always with you. And you need to say things to people the way he wants you to say them. So when it's like when I say this all the time, Jesus didn't come to tell us what to do. He came to show us how to know what to do. He's not saying to the disciples, when you talk to a person, say these 3 things. When you say, he's saying, ask me how I knew to talk to that woman you didn't even see. How did I know? How did I see her? Because I only do what I see the Father doing. Ask me how I knew what to say to her. I only say what I hear the Father saying. So don't get good at memorizing what other people tell you to say. Get good at hearing what the Father says and say that.
All right, last thing, Jamie. And, you know, to anyone out there is like, because one thing I love about your teachings is you've mentioned that you and Don are getting to do stuff that you had inklings of, hints of, words of, that you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that was going to take 30, 40 years to fulfill. But for anyone, you mentioned in the right time, for anyone also who's listening and saying, I missed out. Yeah, Jamie works with young people because it's like, that's when they get formed. But, you know, I didn't get that. Is it too late for me?
I mean, that's the scarcity of opportunity lie, right? That there's God has limited opportunities, and if you miss it, you miss it. But just not true. Not even in Scripture. I mean, Moses goes off for 40 years and comes back again. And we were at a retreat a while ago, and I didn't even know who was there. We were just invited in to speak. So we're speaking. I speak on identity and the things we're talking about here. And I get up the next morning, and there's a man there. He was 87. I had no idea who he was, and he had written down 10 pages of things God said to him because of what I said the night before. He didn't know. He's a believer. He didn't know you could sit and ask God questions and God would talk back to you. He had a legal pad of 10 pages. He was 87 years old. He goes, I got to get to work. And he called me maybe 2 nights before he died in his 90s. And those years, 87 on, he was said were the most exhilarating years of his life.
Jamie, this was, I think I speak for everyone in the room. That was mind-blowing, to say the least. Abby, anything else?
I have so many takeaways from this. It's just amazing.
Our Instagram feed thanks you. There's a lot that's going to be on there. I hope you'll come back and visit us again.
I'd love to. Yeah.
This was so awesome.
Anytime.
So God bless you, Jamie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.